Okay, thank you very much, Lord, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I have been listening all morning and I learned a lot, and that makes my task quite difficult because I learned a lot of ideas from the morning. I'm going to share a few bullet points based on my experience globally with universities in Africa, in Middle East, in Asia. Currently, we launched the Sustainable Development Goals Universities Initiative 3 years ago, and we did a big launch in Namibia for 800 vice chancellor. We went to Indonesia. We met almost 46 universities there. Recently, in July, we also had a big launch at the United Nations in Geneva with the Director General. So I'm going to just to bring to your attention what I learned, not just from an academic point of view or research, but from meeting vice chancellors, meeting government officials, meeting advisors for Ministry of Education across the world. So if I can just quickly go through some points, I divided them into 3 areas. I think we need to learn about them in the United Kingdom here. Number one, globalization. I think we all need to remind ourselves we are in a globalization era, not the information era. We went through 3 different revolutions: industrialization, information, and globalization. What I mean by that, we need to understand the world better because we are depending quite heavily on international students, on students coming to us from Middle East, from Asia, from China, from India, from Africa. So we really need to understand what is going on in these countries, not just on the students. So we are in a globalization era and not in the information era. And what does that mean? These people, they know much about us, about our university. We need to know much about them. Globalization and internationalization is perceived differently across the world. And it is important we all understand. We have most universities, they have either pro vice chancellor or a vice chancellor international, or they call him global, and we have a global engagement team and so on. But we really need to understand the same thing is happening across the world, in the Gulf, in the Middle East, in Africa. How do they perceive internationalization of education? Because that will have an impact on the students we will receive, on the funding we will get from outside, and so on. I don't think universities, when it comes to internationalization in the UK, they understand what is going on outside the same like they understand about us. We are financially struggling, and this has been going on since the last government. And countries across the world, when I travel, I just came from Uganda also for a big meeting with universities there. Those people across the world, they know we are struggling. They know our universities are struggling. And that's a problem because they know we are struggling. When they start getting into partnership and relationship with us, they have a bargaining power much stronger with us. And I'm not going to surprise you. I'm sure you all might know this. If you go to a university, say in the Gulf or in Asia or in China or in Saudi Arabia or UAE, whatever it is, the same seat, the same office where you met a vice chancellor of a university, the next day or the day before you, someone from the UK may have been sitting in the same seat, discussing the same thing. So they have been exposed to many of us. So we need to remind ourselves. COVID has impacted our funding, definitely, but we need to remind ourselves business as usual will not be enough. Definitely, universities need to realize business as usual will not be enough. There's increased competition globally. There's a lot of competition. I speak almost daily because we have a big, large program of internship where it's very popular for the Chinese students. We have like 27 universities keep sending their students to us. They do it online. The skills and the capability of these students is very, very, very impressive. Yes, you will struggle to speak with them in an English because it's not their fault. It's just, I don't know Chinese, they know English, they try to speak with us. But generally, they are so skillful compared to many of the students. I've been teaching for 20 years. Reduction in income. We need to remind ourselves, countries across the world are struggling financially. And will have an impact on us when we understand these countries. Changing technologies, how do we use it to our advantage? Many students here in the UK, they complain about online teaching. Our camera is becoming boring. There is no engagement with the staff. I'm sure we all have heard this. But how do we use these technologies or these changing technologies, which is mostly dominant in our teaching now, to make it more exciting? How do we can actually become using the technologies being actually produced in China or India or Korea, but at the same time make it quite exciting? Changing expectation of universities or employer. And I'm just going to mention one point here, which I have seen it in 3, 4 big universities. Universities, they cut staff, as the vice chancellor just mentioned. One of the things they try to go to the essential. I found, maybe I'm wrong, but many people share my concern for the last 7 or 8 years. Universities are cutting essential, they only leave essential resources available. For me, IT is the most essential department in the university. But what you will find, you have any problem in your computer or you have any problem with anything to do with ICT, there is not much of them. They get rid of most of them. I think we are cutting the wrong people, in my opinion. They are essential, essential. And that's what I have seen in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, in Emirates, in Indonesia. These units of ICT, even in Uganda, now I just came from Uganda and so on, they invest on ICT people, technicians. We keep cutting off technicians, universities. We're cutting the essential people. I'm really sorry to mention this point, but this is important. Technicians are so important. Number two, also security. Some buildings in London's universities, you can't access them after 5 because there's no security. They close the building. I'm really sorry, I have to jump quickly. Now, the second point I want to raise here, why we are missing the opportunity of funding. From my experience, my work with the United Nations, quickly, the United Nations Director General, back in September, just 2 months ago, he stated clearly progress worldwide in achieving sustainable development goals, the 17 of them, is only 17%. Believe it or not, the whole world is progressing only at 17% of these SDGs target that are actually on track. Now, what does that mean? The UN is very keen for progress on these SDGs. The Director General of the United Nations, we met her in July. This is her statement. Universities and academic institutions are not only centers of learning, but also hubs of what? Innovation, research, and community engagement. Community is a key word now. They play a pivotal role in equipping the next generation. Again, this is another key word I think we are missing here. We need to understand the next generation very well, with the knowledge and skills needed to achieve what? Sustainable development. So the UN, the big body running this whole world, is struggling with achieving sustainable development. We're all struggling. And the Director General is telling us how much they rely on universities. What does that mean? It means there's a lot of funding available. We are missing it. I'll give you 2 examples. Lots of companies. Let's take the simple example I just gave in Uganda or in Indonesia. Plastic bags. You remember when our governments introduced the plastic bag, 5B for a plastic bag if you want to buy a plastic bag. It moved to 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35B. Now in Sainsbury or any of these, you go and buy shopping, you pay 30 pence for a plastic bag. Academics, research, very little telling us where this money is going. Do you really know where this money is going? Most academic, I ask them, they don't know. So why not we provide our expertise to help the government, the regulator, to tell them where this money should go? And maybe we could direct this money to come to universities. 30B per bag by plastic bag in this country. Now, another example. I have been asked on one of the TV programs, Allam, these green products stand by some of them from your own country, UK. Are they really green? Are they really sustainable? And believe it or not, there's a big campaign in the Middle East, I remember, because I was on TV, about these companies are not. Do you really, have you ever looked at these companies who provide this stamp or this product is sustainable, or you go and buy a product from any of the, in Oxford Street saying, oh, sustainable cotton. Do you know what's sustainable cotton? Do you really know who is regulating that? Where can we get money on this? Because we are, the UN think we got the knowledge of everything. That's why the UN said, these 17 SDGs, including everything, climate change, poverty, everything, the hub for the knowledge of these is the university. There's a lot of money companies doing with CO2 emission. Big airlines, I went to Qatar for the IATA, British Airways, American Airlines, all of them. These people are talking about sustainability. They pay money to mitigate what they are consuming in CO2. They asking for knowledge. I remember I only met a professor from Oxford at that time. But the idea is we need to look out of the box, not just waiting for the government to give us funding. In the post-COVID-19 era, global skills and the knowledge race, universities must accomplish their natural role as a strategic agent for their country's national collective effort to catch up and to be on track to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. What I have been advised governments, Bahrain, in Nigeria, in many other countries, when they ask me, Alam, what can we do as a government to achieve these SDGs? We need guidelines. I say to them, you need to connect and build a strong linkage with your own universities. And that's a project we just started called SDG Tracker. Now, let me surprise most of you. Maybe you're not going to be surprised if you know this. The United Nations requesting from 2015 every country, including the United Kingdom and the United States, to submit what the United Nations call it national review reports. So the United Kingdom government must submit a progress. What have we done as a country in terms of SDGs? Can you believe it? From 2015, the United Kingdom only submitted one report back in 2019. 6 years. If you look to other countries in Africa or in Saudi Arabia or in Middle East, they submitted 3, 4, 5. So what we need to do, we need to engage with government, asking them for more money, but show them value for the money. We will say to them, universities can lead this country in terms of achieving sustainable development goals. Why they haven't submitted a report? It's a big question mark. 5 years, we are lagging behind even just updating the United Nations what we are doing in sustainable development goals. And then companies and money can come from other sector. Number 3 is understanding the community. I know this is quite alarming. Universities need to reconnect with community. We need to understand we all citizens, we all struggling. At night, my wife will say, Alam, we just need milk tomorrow. We don't have milk in the fridge. I will go to the corner here, Tesco, or any one of them. I am going to buy a milk for £2. I will end up spending £20. Situation is very difficult. Look to the farmers. We need to really be gelling, connecting with the community, understand the problem. I had watched in BBC a student, I can't remember which university, she said she's going to give up. From year 2, she's not continuing. Too expensive. She can't even afford the rent, blah, blah, blah. And she said she talked to her parents. What she wanted to do is more care, or I can't remember exactly what she wanted to study. And she said that require me sitting with older people, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, I don't need university. It's very expensive. You all have daughters, sons, and you know how much they're struggling. So we need to connect with the community we are serving. Several reports argue that yes, the youngest generation perspective on their future study is really about sustainable development. Do we really know this?
Just bring to a close in a second, please. So we've got.
I will close. So we need to understand the students better. Long-term focus. We need to be proactive, not passive reactive. We don't need to wait for the government. We need to direct the government. We need to deliver better and more cost-effective teaching research. And number 3, improve accountability and mitigating risk, because I think we need to be more efficient. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I exceeded my time. Thank you very much. Very quick, 3 or 4 points. Number 1, I think universities need to communicate much better with the stakeholder, particularly students. We should not just treat them, consult them, or get their ideas on teaching courses and so on, but we really need to communicate with them better to understand where they come from and how can they bring ideas. Maybe we can have a hackathons of ideas. Can we fund this? Why not? I have been witnessing lots of hackathons in other Arab countries. One I witnessed in Saudi Arabia about how to bring new ideas to solve humanitarian problem using AI, for example. So that's one thing. Understanding the global picture better. This is definitely, I think, needs all universities need to understand what's going on in higher education across the whole world, particularly where we get the students from China, India. I was very surprised to see some universities heavily relying on students from a particular country. Let's say India or China, whatever it is. What happens if suddenly we have no relationship with that country? So we really need to be very careful understanding the market, where is it going, where is the movement of people. 3, quickly, I think the government is facing, we have seen the government which collapsed before the labor because they were not they have a lot of problems, they couldn't solve it. Now this government is facing a lot of problems. They just face a lot of problems. We need to understand we are part of the big problem. They just have the farmers marching into central London, for example, for inheritance tax and so on. Everything is struggling. So we need to be careful to make sure we can give a very prescribed, easy, some ideas to government in order when they come to us, because they can see, okay, we're charging a lot of money. Most business school in big universities, they charge £30,000 for students doing marketing or a simple social science course. It's sometimes difficult to try to say why it is 30,000. Even people with background in marketing, if you ask them to charge, how much you going to charge for this course, 30,000. We need to be able to explain ourselves either. Lastly, I really encourage all universities to think of innovative ideas, innovation. So university, they should set a task force in the university. We got professors of innovation and so on, but everyone, what innovative ideas we can actually find. I don't think we exploit it that much. Innovative ideas for a long-term sustainability of financing our universities.